Today's episode is brought to you by Stitchcraft Marketing. If you're making video, posting to social, sending emails, trying to grow your business, and you're not sure if it's working, this is for you. Stitchcraft Marketing is offering our listeners $500 marketing checkups, a customized coaching session where we review your channels and give you clear, prioritized next steps. It's for brands managing their own marketing who want expert direction. Apply now at checkup.stitchcraftmarketing.com. Thank you so much, Stitchcraft Marketing. And now, here's the show. Welcome to episode 312 of the Craft Industry Alliance podcast. I'm Abby Glassenberg. Craft Industry Alliance is a community for craft professionals where you can strengthen your creative business, stay up to date on industry news, and build connections within our supportive trade association. Check it out at craftindustrialliance.org. Today on the show, we're talking about the first year of owning a retail shop with my guest, Sanjani Ramkissoon. Sanjani is the owner of Stitch and Revel, a yarn shop in Livermore, California, a charming wine country town in the Bay Area, about 45 miles east of San Francisco. Born in Fiji and raised in the Bay Area since the age of 5, she considers herself an accidental business owner, turning a long-held dream into reality when an unexpected opportunity to purchase inventory from a closing yarn shop led her and her husband to take the leap. They opened Stitch and Revel in September 2025 in a new location with a fresh vision and a fresh name. Her vision for the shop was to create an experience, not just a place to buy yarn, though that's important too, but a space where creativity flows and community grows. Sanjani Ramkissoon, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Abby.
I'm so happy to be talking with you. And for those of you who were at H&H, our trade show last year, I gave a little talk at the very beginning of the show on stage before we did our State of the Industry panel. And I mentioned you because you at that time were getting ready to open a shop and were coming to the trade show for the first time. So here we are a year later, and I'm really excited to kind of hear about that first year because, like we said in your bio, I think so many people, this is their dream, and I want to hear how it's gone for you.
Well, I thank you. Yeah, so H&H was quite an experience in itself. And when we spoke, the fiber industry at the time, Joann's was closing. And I think that meant so many things for so many, all of us crafters. And an unexpected opportunity happened where the local yarn shop was closing, and I had the opportunity to buy the inventory. And it was a scary time because I think on the forefront, if a big store like Joann's can't survive, what does that mean for local yarn shops? And I'm happy to say that in my community, the love and support has been so tremendous. And 7 months officially in from when we opened the door, things have been going really well. It's a lot of work behind the scenes. When I bought the inventory, essentially it is opening up, I did open up in a new location, a new vision, a new name. We had to do a system migration. So over the summer, it was a lot of cleaning shelves, buying fixtures, and tagging 3,000 plus yarn balls. Like I had to retag every single item. But it's been a fun journey, and I've had my daughters were in the shop with me over the summer. So summer camp was like yarn shop getting ready. But yeah, I want to say that, it's been an amazing experience, and we're having a lot of fun, and there's more to come.
So I wondered, first of all, how you connected with this yarn shop that was going out of business.
Well, the yarn shop has been in the community for about 12 years, and I went to do a knitting class there back in, I think, 10 years ago when my twins were 10 they're 11 now, but it was about 10 years ago. So when they were 1 year old, I was like, oh, I'm going to learn to knit, and everything's going to be, I'm going to start knitting because I was an established crocheter at the time. And so I discovered the yarn shop when I was looking for a knitting class. And throughout my journey, I just kept going back to crochet because I didn't have the time to learn to knit with, raising twins at the time when they were just 1 year old. And so I revisited. I thought my resolution, I think last year was I want to go back to knitting and learn to knit for myself.
Mm,
So yarn shop was not on the horizon, and I didn't go in with that idea. But when I revisited the yarn shop to pick up knitting lessons again, started talking to her, and she was telling me about what their next chapter was, and that's where the opportunity came.
I see. Okay. And the other thing I wondered was why buy existing inventory? I mean, I guess that is what you bought, right? Because you changed the name, you changed the location. So really, when you
Yeah.
bought the business, you bought the inventory. So why buy existing inventory rather than start from scratch?
I get asked that a lot. And for me personally, I don't think I would have made this leap if that wasn't there. So I had
Mm,
the support from the previous shop owner, and there's an established customer base. She created a really nice community for her shoppers, and the inventory was there. And for somebody being very green to just business and learning there's so much different types of yarn, it was nice to have the inventory already set.
mm,
And if that opportunity wasn't there, I wouldn't be a yarn shop owner today. And also with, conversations, it was also a chance to continue having a yarn shop in the community as well. Um, but also it's like I bought the inventory from her, but I created a whole new business too, like my shop. Um, And yeah, I was thinking about that the other day, and I usually tell customers will ask, well, is it better to buy inventory or to do it on your own? And honestly, I think it depends on the individual. Um, I'm at a point where in the beginning, all my money went into the inventory, and I just bought the inventory. She kept her business name, and I'm at a point where I get to bring in new lines and stuff because I've sold off a lot of the inventory. And so you kind of have to evaluate, do you like the current inventory in the shop? Which I did. And she had a good selection of yarns. So that kind of made the transition easy for me.
yeah, it's a good way to learn based on another person's decision making, and then you can make your own decisions based on your experiences with what customers are buying and things like that. So, yeah, that's a very interesting, and I thank you for shedding light on that. So, I know you had a whole corporate career before you started doing this, and I want to get to that, but I'm intrigued by the fact that you were born in Fiji. So, tell us a little bit about your early life and your childhood.
So my parents, we landed in San Francisco, the Bay Area, actually, in 1980. So came here when I was turning 5, I believe, and I've grown up in the Bay Area ever since. So East Bay, for those who are not familiar with the Bay Area, is a pretty big region. And usually we always say San Francisco because that's what most people know of. But east of San Francisco, I grew up in a city, Hayward, California, and kind of just kept shifting east. So now I'm in Livermore, which is about 45 miles east of San Francisco. But yeah, growing up, I feel like I've been a Bay Area girl ever since I came here. I went to visit Fiji in 2004. So I do have family members there I haven't been able to keep in touch with. But the goal is to go visit as the girls get a little bit older because I want them to retain memory of Fiji when they visit.
Yeah. Okay. So, what did your parents do for work when you were growing up?
Well, so we are like the typical immigrant family story. So coming here, growing up, my dad actually, both my parents had two jobs. My dad had two jobs. He was working at a hotel and he was a janitor. And my mom worked at a hotel, and then she got a job at a cookie factory, Mother's Cookies, which was in Oakland at the time. And my journey as a child of immigrants, and we would go help my dad on the weekends to clean. So my weekends were like Friday would come, we'd hang out, and then the weekends was spent helping clean all of the offices that has he had accounts with. So growing up, it was middle class immigrant family, kind of working the family business. And, but it was very supportive. Like I grew up in a very loving family. We didn't have the means to do a lot of extracurriculars, but I feel like there was a lot of learned family experiences, bonding, and it really taught me, like I grew up with a very, core work ethic.
Okay. And did anybody craft or do, handwork in your family?
No, that's the thing. So I always admired artists. Like I always thought artists were people that painted or did sculptures because you always like in movies and TV shows, like they always have their art studios. And I now know that fiber arts is an art in that part of that category, which I'm so proud of. But growing up, I enjoyed art and crafts in school, but that's the only time I had. I never had extracurriculars where I went to art classes or craft things. So in elementary school, that was my only opportunity to get hands on with arts and crafts. I did a lot of coloring, like coloring books, because that's what we could afford. So I think the color part was there. And then I didn't have exposure to fiber arts, knit or crochet. I don't even think I knew what it was like in high school or early college. So the way the crochet journey started was, way later in life.
Okay. All right. So when you did go to college, what did you want to do? What did you study and what did you think you might want to do as a job?
So I feel like I've done a lot of my life has been a bit more non-traditional. So outside after high school, I started working full time. Then I went to a community college. So I worked full time and I went to community college full time. So I did like, day job and then night classes. And I was a transfer student. So I transferred to UC Davis. And when I transferred, I still didn't know what I wanted to do. But I transferred, and I graduated with a double major in sociology, organizational studies, and communications. Can't remember how that happened, but I didn't know about human resources management, but I knew what I liked about what I wanted to do. I just didn't know what it was going to be called. And I worked at the company I worked for full time while I was going to college, community college. After I graduated UC Davis, I went back there because at that time the market was, there wasn't a lot of job opportunities. And through that, I kind of had the opportunity to start working with the HR person at the time. And then I feel like natural positions led me to having my HR career.
Okay. So you worked in
Yeah.
HR for a while.
Yeah. Yeah. From, I believe, 2004, 2005 until I had, um, when I was pregnant until 2014. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
So I
So
had
a good 10 years.
it was a good 10 year. Yeah. And it was a really nice progression. So I would say my real HR job title was HR coordinator. And then I always say my, quotes retirement, I retired from being a HR director. So I had a really nice career
Mm,
progression in HR management.
okay. And was there some skills that you learned in those 10 years that ended up being useful now as a shop owner?
Oh, absolutely. I think anytime you're working with people, a lot of transferable skills, communication, kind of really I think it helps me with communication with team members, with my customers, and even when I'm out just networking with the community, fellow business owners, a lot of transferable skills. And
Yeah.
especially with HR, there's so many levels and facets of human resources, from paperwork to training and development to new hire orientation, and also the not so nice part of like doing write ups and termination. So delivering bad messages, basically.
Hmm.
All of that transfers into the business world and shop life.
Yeah, absolutely. Good experience. Okay. All right. So, how did you get into crochet then? Because you are actually a very good crocheter and have a lot of experience in crochet. So, since you didn't grow up with it and didn't really know what it was really, how did you get introduced to crochet and refine your skills?
So I was introduced to crochet back in, I think it was 2012. My father had passed away, and he was on dialysis for about 13 years, which is a long time for people that are going through that treatment. And halfway into his treatment journey, my mom was working full time at the cookie factory, which was in Oakland. Then they shut down the factory and she took an early retirement. And it was a time where he needed more care too. So she started taking him to his treatment, sitting with him. After he passed away, we're going through his bag, like, just going through his stuff. And I was like, there was like this, she had yarn and a crochet hook, but in hindsight, it was like more of like a doily crochet hook, but with like worsted yarn. Now I know those terms. And I was like, what is this? And it was kind of like a blob. And she was like doing the technique of crochet, but she didn't know what she was doing. It was just to pass time. And so fast forward, we're having breakfast at a local breakfast place, and Joanne's in Livermore had just opened, and they had this big grand opening. There was music. So we were just like walking to the car after having breakfast. And I'm like, ooh, what's going on there, Mom? Like, let's go check it out. And we walked into Joanne's and they had, it was like their grand opening. And I remember they had tables set up to show people classes. And I saw a crochet hook on the table and I started talking to the person that was there, learn about, the classes. And I told her, you should sign up for the class so you already know how to do something. She wanted moral support. I took the class with her, but this was like in my prime career lifetime. So I wasn't looking to craft. And I remember when I took the class, I was frustrated. I didn't want to crochet. I told her, I'm like, this isn't for me. And she's like, no, keep going. And then it shifted because at that time, there weren't the crochet videos we have now with these amazing crochet artists and like the content is so great now. Back then it wasn't there. So I had to start learning crochet so I could turn around and teach her because she wasn't going to go on YouTube. She wasn't going to go. And it's like trying to read a pattern. What is DC? What is SC? And so I found myself just continuing to learn so I can turn around and teach her. And I mean, now I own a yarn shop from that. So it's a very wild road that got me here. But it was great because at that time, I just like, we bonded so much. I remember like for Mother's Day and just like doing events with her. Like we drove out to Monterey one time, which is about 2 hours away to do like a Tunisian crochet class. Cause at that time in the like 2012, 2013, there weren't a lot of crochet classes offered at shops. So it's like if I found one, then I'm like, Mom, this is your birthday gift. We're going to drive for 2 hours to do a 2 hour class. And so we had a lot of fun experiences together,
Yeah.
learning
Okay.
crochet together.
Right. Yeah, that's lovely. All right. So that's how you got into crochet and then you wanted to learn knitting and you explained that story and connected with the yarn shop owner and she was ready to move on. And so you ended up purchasing and so had you stopped working as an HR executive? Was there like a little time in between then and deciding, okay, I'm ready to become an entrepreneur and strike out on my own?
Yeah, so we were surprised when we found out we are going to have twins, and at that time I was working, and And I remember because in California, because as an HR manager, as a professional, like, I process all of the leaves of absences. And in California, you can take up to 7 months unpaid, but your job is protected. And I remember talking to the CEO of the company, and I was like, this is my plan. I'm going to take a year off, so I don't expect my job to be held, but we were going to plan a whole transition time and get the job posted, etc. At 25 weeks, I think it was on Christmas Eve, I went for, ultrasound, like a checkup, and I had to have a emergency medical procedure done. And I was pretty much on bed rest after that.
Oh,
So, so then in talking to, then, it's like, then I just took a early resignation. And the plan was, I was like, oh, like a dreamy little, I'll be a stay-at-home mom for about a year and then go back into, I wanted to go back and work, but the twins, it's a lot of work with little babies. And this was the first, on both sides of our family, and our first. I only have twins, so it was our first time being parents. And long story short, my husband and I had saved up for taking the year off, for me to take the year off, and that became like 3, 4. I mean, the girls were 10, and I never went back to the career life, and I basically kind of transitioned, said I have retired now, and around like when I kind of accepted I wouldn't go back into the career world, I started thinking about what do I want to do.
hmm.
And so I pivoted into, I thought I pivoted into wanting kind of creating myself into being a crochet instructor. So that was the path I was starting to
Okay.
practice
Yeah.
going into. Yeah.
Yeah. So you were like, okay, maybe it'll be something craft focused, something craft related, and I can teach crochet
Yes.
or kind
Yeah.
of pivot into this new industry that I'm enjoying as a hobby.
Exactly, exactly. So during COVID, I remember I signed up with Craft Yarn Console. They have certified
Oh,
knit
yeah.
and crochet instructor programs. So I was like, maybe I'll learn how to teach. And because I had the background of the training and development and training employees. And so I thought, okay. And I always, like when I was little, I never had an idea of what I wanted to do, but we always play teacher. Kids always play
Yeah.
teacher. I was that kid who had the dolls and stuffed animals on the bed in like second grade. And so I kind of always, I don't know, there's something about teaching and relationships that I've always had a passion for. Um, so that was pretty much where I thought I would pivot into going. And
Right.
it was
Okay.
a
All right.
natural thing for me to teach in the yarn shop.
Yeah, absolutely. So did you start teaching in the yarn shop that you ended up buying?
No, no, I never taught there. But when I opened up my shop in the beginning, I taught the crochet classes, like intro to crochet, and I and
Mm.
I created the crochet class, keeping in mind how I would have wanted to be taught when I was a beginner. And same thing with our knitting class and working with my intro crochet instructor. We created a 2-part series, like going to Joanne's. I remember I think I took a knit class there. Like I think I took almost all fiber, tried to do a lot of classes there, but in 2 hours, it's not enough time to learn a brand new craft. And so what I did was I created a 2-part series where they have to come back and it's embedded. So, they're already paying for it and it's a total of 4 hours for an intro class. It's 2 parts each. And I always tell my students that a lot of the learning happens at home. When you're going to leave after the first 2 hours, it's a lot of practice. It's a lot. You're doing a lot of stuff with your hands and fiber and a hook. And then when you come back, then we're going to answer all of the questions, look at our mistakes. And I always tell them, if you're making mistakes, keep making them. Don't, if you keep on doing and start crochet and knitting again, that momentum and that, like, that muscle memory is being lost.
I want to take a moment now to talk about our sponsor, Stitchcraft Marketing. Stitchcraft Marketing is a marketing agency that works specifically with craft and product-based businesses. They're offering something called a marketing checkup for listeners of the Craft Industry Alliance podcast. It's a one-time $500 session, so not a retainer or ongoing commitment. This is for businesses that are already up and running. You're posting, you're sending emails, you're trying to grow, but you're just not sure what's working. Before the call, they will review your website and up to 3 marketing channels. So maybe a social media channel, a newsletter, YouTube, blog, etc. Then you get a 90-minute working session. It's not a sales call. It's actually working through your marketing. They walk you through what's working, what's not, where you're missing opportunities. They give you creative feedback on your content like video, graphics, hooks, captions, on-screen text, your on-camera performance, product features, and more. And you'll leave with a clear and prioritized plan. Plus, there are 5 things, the most important next steps. It's led by Lisa Schroyer, who has over 20 years of experience in craft media and marketing. She's coached major podcast hosts, YouTube stars, and talent for television, books, magazines, blogs, and more. She's also a content creator herself who grew her Instagram following by doubling it in 30 days, crossing the 10K followers mark by implementing the very advice she gives her clients. So it's a good fit if you are doing your own marketing, you feel stuck or inconsistent, you know you need to do video to grow on social, but you don't know how to do it well. You want expert eyes without hiring an agency. You do have to apply, because they keep it kind of selective. So the standard pricing for this is $650. You're going to be getting it for $500. Go to checkup.stitchcraftmarketing.com to apply for a marketing checkup. Thank you so much, Stitchcraft Marketing. And now back to my conversation with Sanjani. Yeah, that's actually a great point about how we learn, because I found with both swimming and with riding a bike with my own children that you can take swimming lessons, and that's great. You need swimming lessons. But where you really learn to swim is during free swim, where they just let the kids in the pool. And that's where you actually really learn. And with riding a bike, I can take you out and run behind you and hold onto the seat and all those things that we do to help our kids learn how to ride a bike. But when you really learn to ride a bike is when I'm not there and you're on the driveway by yourself and you're just trying to figure it out. And so I think that's a great way to sort of talk about it with people who are new to a craft. It's like, get in there and keep going. If don't keep, I think there is that perfectionist feeling, especially among adult learners who want to be good at things right away, that if it's not like a perfectly straight stitch on a sewing machine or a perfect set of stitches that you're making with your needle, then you want to take it out and start over again. But then if you keep doing that, you have nothing that you're really practicing.
Yeah. And I made that mistake. So I remember 10 years ago when after I took that first knitting class, I must have had like this big garter stitch scarf. And I had and I took it apart and I regret it because now I don't have. So then when I revisited knitting and I had started this shawl pattern, it was a simple shawl pattern. And I probably got 50 rows in. I was like, oh, I can do better. And I took it apart. And I regret it because I was like, I wish I had those today to look at my work. And I think that's the other thing for beginners when I teach is and I'll usually say after part 1 or, if they go home, I'm like, if you want to start all over, just keep that little bit you made. Because when you come back and then when they actually see their progress within the first 2 weeks, they're amazed themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't realize how fast that muscle memory kicks in.
Yeah, that's a really great point. Okay. So you were talking about how you've always really liked relationships. Something in like building relationships with people has always appealed to you. And I feel like that's really the strength of the shop that you've built is that it's all about community, inclusivity, and relationships. So I want to start with the name that you chose. Why did you choose Stitch and Revel? And I don't know. I mean, it sounds like you didn't purchase the name from the former owner. So you did need to come up with a new name, but how did you come up or why did you come up with that name?
So I wanted the name to be inclusive of all fiber crafts. And the former name is Knit This Purl That, which is great. But as a crocheter, I wanted a name to be inclusive to all fiber crafts, where knitters, crocheters, embroidery, cross stitch, needle felters, everybody felt welcomed in the shop. But then I also wanted it to have the initials SNR. So for like my initials are SNR, my husband, his name is Ravi. So we're SNR as a couple. Our daughters are SNR. and then our cats are SNR. So I just had to continue that whole SNR initial thing. And it was, I got to be honest, it was a lot of Google and chat GPTing with like fiber and SNR. And somewhere along the search, the words, I think I always started with the word stitch. And then it was like, what is that R going to be and how is it going to fit? And I wanted it to be in that order. And that's how Stitch and Revel was born. And Revel is, and it's fitting because it's doing something with extreme joy and excitement. It's lively, and that's the energy of the shop.
Right. Okay. So that's a great explanation. All right. So, how did you choose the location? Because it does sound like you move the location, go through the process of figuring out where to open.
Hmm. I wanted to stay in Livermore. I'm a Livermore resident too, so it's important for me to stay in the community that my kids go to school in, that we are part of. Finding finding retail is hard and it's expensive. So a lot of places I looked at, if they're in like the what we typically think of shopping centers, which is great because you get a ton of foot traffic, but the few that I found is like a 3-year lease, a 5-year lease, and it's triple net. So it's for someone who's not familiar with being a business owner, it was a lot. And I had that fear. What if nobody comes and shops? Like I had a lot of fear of, I don't know if I'm going to have customers. This is a big undertaking. And so just researching different places, I found the location. The lease was, workable. The rent was workable, and it's in a location where it's right off the freeway. So in Livermore, we have it's not that big of a city, but we have a couple of different exits. This is the main exit for the downtown, and it's like right off the freeway. And walking distance is like places to eat, and it's not like it's not a fancy area. Like it's kind of a mixed use space, the area that I'm in, but it works because it's right off the freeway, plenty of parking. A fabric shop just opened up next door. And so we have that. We have the yarn shop. There's a music school around like kind of in the same hub. There's an art school in the same hub. And so I feel like we're becoming this really cool creative hub now.
Yeah.
And the art school, my daughters go there on Fridays, and it's so fun because my husband will pick them up. He drops them off to art school, and then the school, or I have a customer, her daughter goes there too, so she'll like drop the girls off or pick up the girls, and then they come back to the shop. So it's nice to be part of a community like that, very connected.
Yeah.
And working with Livermore businesses, and we're in a wine country. So then there's that layer of wine tourism and collaborating with wineries and doing fun events with local businesses as well.
So, yeah, talk to us a little bit about some of those collaborations because I think that's a really smart way to get your name out there early on, build relationships, share customer base with other people, other businesses that aren't competing with you, but are complementary to what you do.
Yeah, thank you. So, one of the big events that I partnered with, and it's been very successful, has been Crafts at the Cinema. And I started seeing like social media, and I feel like it just seemed like it was in Europe or, the UK, where people go to the movie theaters and they're just, they're stitching like knit, crochet, or fiber crafts. And I was like, what a cool experience. And this was like last year or something. And I kept thinking like, wow, that's so cool. And then I realized, wait a minute, I own a yarn shop now. I have the opportunity to do that. So I reached out to a local movie theater in town, Vine Cinema, and, introduced this idea. Like, and I had just opened up the yarn shop. Like I opened in September. I think I reached out to him late September, early October, and our first event was in November. And it was a concept some people were excited about, some people were confused. And, I have to tell people like we dimmed the lights down low. So it's not dark and it's a private event. So I rent out the venue and I sell the tickets through the shop. And it's just a fun private experience for the fiber crafts. 7 months in, I'm doing my third one on this Sunday, and each event has sold over 100 tickets.
Amazing. That's
That's been
fabulous.
fun, yeah. And then reaching out to local wineries. So in Livermore, we have about, I think, a little over 50 wineries. give and take 50 to 55. Um, and a handful are women owned. So always, wanting to support women owned wineries. So I've partnered with Sakura Winery and have done some sip and stitch events with them. I'm reaching out to other women owned wineries to do more collaborations. And this past weekend, we had a really fun event. So, in the wine country, there's Livermore Wine Trolley, and it's a trolley that takes you to different wineries. And I
Ah,
partnered with them. And so they picked we sold out the event. We had 34 um, customers or guests. So the wine trolley came to the shop on Saturday, and it was such a cool, fun experience just to see this cute little red trolley coming to the shop. We loaded up. We went to our first tasting. We had lunch. Everything was included. Then we got on the trolley. It took us to our second winery, had a wine tasting and a yarn tasting experience there. And then it brought us back to the shop. And I'm always trying to find like unique experiences for customers because part of my vision for the shop is it's not just buying yarn. I mean, I have to stay in business. We love yarn, so we have to come to a place to buy beautiful yarns, but also elevating that experience. And that's been my goal, to partner and reach out to different businesses and see what we can do together.
yeah. And that's such a fun thing to do with your sister or your mom or your
Mhm.
friends.
Yeah.
You all go together and have this memorable experience together. And it roots it in, besides wine, it roots it in something that you mutually love also, which is making things. And so
Mhm.
it brings those two things together. I think that's brilliant.
Yeah.
So as far as like inventory is concerned, you mentioned you had purchased this big lot of inventory, and now we're at the point where you get to make some of your own decisions based on your customers and how they're behaving. So, what did you learn about inventory as a new shop owner, as far as what does sell, what doesn't really sell? Is it is it local, like partnering with local dyers and local makers? Is that what's selling, or how are you thinking about inventory now?
Um, well, I think I'm fortunate because the inventory I bought was really nice, healthy inventory. She had established a good selection of yarns. For me to move forward, it's bringing in lines does that currently doesn't exist, or that's maybe new to just the local Bay Area, the local shops, or the not the local shop, the local customer. So I'm trying to branch out and see, okay, well, this isn't within the yarn shops around my local base. And I think for me, it's finding different lines. I was just part of a Bay Area Yarn Crawl. So the Bay Area Yarn Crawl is yearly, and they just celebrated their third yarn crawl. And it's a group of 24 shops in 10 days. So it was
Wow.
a lot of shopping. And the Bay Area is a bit spread out. So there was a there's a lot of customers that finished that 24 shop crawl in 3 days, which is pretty
Wow.
amazing. But we had, it's 10 days and the shop was open for 10 days. And it was great because I did bring in an indie local dyer. I partnered with her for my grand opening. She did a custom colorway based on my branding colors for the shop. And I brought in another indie dyer from Chico, California. And while not local, but local, still part of the Northern California, I had a local wood maker. She does amazing, wood creations. She made my stitch markers, earrings, some of my shop signs, locals. Pottery. She had yarn bowls. So always trying to support local makers in the shop and reach out to local indie dyers as well. So as far as like when I look at inventory, what to bring in, it's it's a lot of learning still, to be honest with you. I'm still learning about my customer base. We have an established customer base. We have a lot of new customers coming in. And for the Bay Area, we have 24 amazing shops. So there's a lot of choices for people. Where I'm at in Livermore, you know, I'm very east of the Bay Area. And so, trying to see what like the surrounding 30-mile radius, what I can bring to those customers.
Yeah, so that it's a special experience of what you're going to find and discover when you come to Stitch and Revel versus those other shops. And especially if you're a wine tourist, most tourists, they want to get something local, something locally made. It's a souvenir. So I think that that's really lovely and very smart. And I know that inclusivity is really important to you as well, as a woman, as a person of color. So talk to us a little bit about some of the efforts that you've made to sort of make Stitch and Revel a place that feels really inclusive.
So I think for me, like that's the heart of Stitch and Revel is community and drawing from my own experiences from when I discovered yarn shops. Not all were welcoming, and I didn't know why. I mean, crochet's having her moment, and but 10 years ago, she wasn't. And so a lot of shops were, and I've talked to other crocheters that come into the shop, and it's a shared experience. So not as welcoming. So because my journey started with crochet, I had a different vision of how I build my shop. You know, l- focuses all fiber crafts, but um, crochet and knit equally. And making sure that makers from all communities and backgrounds are welcomed in the shop has been very important to me because in talking to people, we all have had different experiences and they're not always as welcoming. And so, being a person of color and from the community that I come from, I wanted people to know that they're all welcomed. Like, it's there's stereotypes of what yarn shops can be like, and it's important for us as the fiber community to break those stereotypes and create a space that's welcoming for everybody. So a lot of it drew from my own personal experience. Um, so next month I'm doing my first fundraiser and it's in the local area, Tri Valley for Black Lives. So we're doing um, paint by numbers, so it's open to everybody, not just fiber. And so helping, using my shop as a platform to help other organizations. I'm part of a AAPI celebration where I'll be at a winery celebrating the AAPI community. And back in January, um, I don't know if you remember, but there was this national shutdown some businesses participated in, and it was a tough decision for me, especially as a new shop owner, but I did decide to keep the store closed that Friday, but I opened it up and we called it Stitching in Solidarity. So, those are things that like that's it's values that I have, and it's trying to find that balance with the community as well. And when new customers come and we start talking, and I always tell customers, if you have social media, take a look on my Instagram page. You'll get a feel for what this community is about. And then, if people have different values or if they have different viewpoints, they can make the decision. But I welcome everybody.
And I know you went to H&H last year. I don't know if you're planning to go this year, but maybe you can talk a little bit about. Oh, good. Talk a little bit about the trade show and how that was helpful to you as a new shop owner. What maybe some of your goals are now that you're going to be almost a year in.
Yeah. That was quite an experience. So I went in with just like blind eyes. And I was already, so at that time, the decision was made. I would buy inventory from the shop so, and I'm like, I didn't go to purchase inventory. It was more to learn
Yeah.
and network. And so I got a chance to meet you in person. I got a chance to meet Edie Ekman, who was my master teacher when I did my certified course, which was like fangirl moment, and meeting a couple of different people and networking with fellow yarn shop owners. That was key. That was a great opportunity in itself. I felt very overwhelmed as a first timer. Like, I remember going back to my hotel room and thinking, I don't want to do this. But the support has been amazing. And I think what I walked away with last year, and I was only there 2 days. I did the university on Tuesday. My husband did a red eye. He flew out of San Francisco on Tuesday night, arrived in Chicago 6 o'clock in the morning. We went to a new yarn shop owner meeting at 7:30 in the morning, and we flew out like 6 o'clock that day. It was a whirlwind. This time around, I'm going to be there for all the days, and I it's like I'm going in with this amazing fresh set of eyes. Um, but it was an experience for me. Last year was about networking and just meeting people and learning about all the different yarn companies. It was more research. This time I'm going in to continue learning. Um, I have an idea of like, and I have to buy inventory this year too. So it's going in as a whole different, like with a different perspective and goal. But one thing I do want to mention is, one of my resources has been your podcast and TNNA. So they do a new shop owner meeting every month, and oh my gosh, it's been so amazing. I've learned so much, and I'm excited to meet the shop owners this time around. And they have a meeting also. And Sunny, the president, she's a wealth of knowledge, and I think for me, it's just, these relationships. And anytime I have a question, I've reached out to like other yarn shop owners, and they've all been so helpful and supportive. It's a very supportive community, the experience that I've had.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that that is definitely the case. All right. So, what is coming up for you at Stitch and Revel that we can look forward to, and what's a good way for folks to keep up with what you're doing? Because I'm sure after listening to this, they're going to want to do that before we get to your recommendations.
So our website is stitchandrevel.com. That's STITCHANDREVEL. And then social media is at Stitch and Revel. Same thing, STITCHANDREVEL. I'm not an online shop yet. I'm still like, I barely can keep up with the brick and mortar side. So we're not an online shop, but we have some more fun events in the summer. I have my 1 year anniversary coming up in September, which seems like it's a far away time, but I got to start planning it like today. And that's one of the things I've learned is if I want to do an event, like it takes a long time to plan stuff. We have been doing weekly kids crochet class. That has been so good. Those kids, I mean, and they've inspired me to do a summer camp with them. So that's kind of in the horizons for that. Collaborating with two new events in the community, but that's still in the works. So I just have to tell people if you're local, just keep following social media and sign up for our newsletter. And then just like what I do in-house. So I do these collaborations with community business members, but in-house we've done some fiber theme parties. I do free weekly social stitching. I have social stitching 3 times a week, Thursday nights, and then Saturdays and Sundays, 2 to 4. Shop is open. So we invite people to come in and craft. And I have a monthly book club with a fiber twist, and all of our books have like a yarn or crochet or knit element to it. And we're next month is our next book club, and that'll be our third. Like we've had the authors zoom in and chat with us. So that's been really fun. And all of these ideas just come from stuff that I enjoy myself. And I'm like, oh, I always sometimes just have these dreamy ideas like, oh, it would be fun if we did something like that. And then I try to find people to do it with.
That's fabulous. I love it so much. So you have a couple of recommendations. One of them I love also. It's the Granny Square deck. So tell us what you love about that.
So yeah, I have it here too. So I brought it into the shop and it sold out, and I did my second reorder. I like it because it's small and compact, and it's a great way to build crochet skills. And so for my recommendations, a lot of times there's a lot of knit recommendations. So I thought I'd bring in the crochet recommendations. I like it because it's small, it's portable. You can put one card in your bag versus carrying a book, and you can almost build you can build anything with granny squares, accessories, garments. My shop team member, she made these cute little chickens with just two granny squares. And
Ah,
so there's a lot of versatility with granny squares, and the deck is great because it's portable. It's a small little, one little square, and you're going to learn so many different designs.
and then you also wanted to recommend, yeah, totally. I love them too. You wanted to recommend plaid crochet kits, and I've never tried these.
So it's like it's this. I know in the video. Well, I know it says audio, but these I have in the shop. I like these because I don't want to say it's a knockoff of Wobbles, but it's inspired by that. And when I was thinking of what to bring in that was also like a kit, budget friendly, my daughter made one. When she was like, they just turned 11, but she was able to make one and follow the pattern. So it's a nice kit, budget friendly, and the instructions are great. The pattern's written nicely. It includes everything all the way to the crochet hook. So it's a nice grab and go. It's a nice gift giving, or for those who are just starting their crochet journey, you don't have to buy yarn. It's not a big investment. You can take that, make something, and you don't have to buy so much yarn and stuffing and all the little things that you need for
Yeah,
amigurumi make.
right. That's why I love kits. So these are different amigurumis. The one you held up is like a little
Mhm.
teddy bear with little
Yeah.
heart on his chest. So that's a great recommendation. And I think kits are so ideal for exactly what you
Yeah.
said. And then you wanted to recommend the Clover Amour crochet hooks.
Yeah, this is so I get asked a lot in the shop, what crochet hook do you I use this. There's a lot of different hooks, and I always tell people, everyone's different. This is the one I use. It's a great seller in the shop, and I like it because it has that soft grip, and it's just like the way it's just so smooth when you crochet and it goes through the yarn.
All right. So it's
Yeah,
easy to hold and easy to use.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, Sanjani, this has been great. I'm so glad we had a chance to reconnect.
Me too. It's been quite a journey. I'm excited to see you in, I think, 2 weeks.
I know, crazy in Chicago. So, well, it's been great talking to you, and you've been listening to the Craft Industry Alliance podcast. I'm Abby Glassenberg. Today's episode was brought to you by Stitchcraft Marketing. If you're ready to stop guessing and get clear direction on your marketing, apply for a marketing checkup with Stitchcraft Marketing. You'll get expert feedback, a prioritized plan, and a 90-minute working session to walk through it all. It's application-based and spots are limited. Head to checkup.stitchcraftmarketing.com to apply. Thank you so much, Stitchcraft Marketing. Craft Industry Alliance is a community for craft professionals. When you become a member of Craft Industry Alliance, you get in-depth coverage of craft industry news, the opportunity to connect with fellow professionals for advice and support, and access to an educational library filled with ideas, tools, and resources to help you as you build your business. Join us at craftindustryalliance.org. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.